Good morning, everybody. Judea Hartley here. Happy Monday. It's a marvelous one. Welcome back into the one and the only AM show. Now, you guys, I am super stoked right now because at the top of today's show, we tease that we have a flat out, insightful, impactful, influential guest joining us via Zoom this morning. And guess what, my brothers and sisters? She is here. Her name is Danielle Jackson, and she is a female friendship coach, an educator, an author, just so many incredible things that she's been doing. She's been on the Tamron Hall show. She's been a part of Vogue. She's been a part of Oprah. Just incredible things that she is doing on the social media platform and in real life. So y'all, I'm excited. I'm excited to pick her brain this morning. So without further ado, would you show your love for Miss Danielle Jackson? Hey, girl.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing so well. Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you.
I'm excited to be here and talk all things friendship. So I'm so glad that you invited me to lend my voice to this conversation.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So I have been, Danielle, let me just first say this before we get into the meat of this sandwich. Let me say thank you. Let me express my gratitude. I know that you are busy just doing a great work. You're out there being a major agent of change, and I see that. I witness that. I'm definitely a consistent supporter of your content. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you joining us this morning on the AM show. I think what you're doing is so necessary, and I think so many people need to be educated in this particular area. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate you saying that and seeing value in the work. You know, sometimes when it comes to friendship or friendship education or support, some people sometimes, laugh at that. Like, really, is it that serious? And it is. All the research keeps revealing the same thing. And that is that there is a direct connection between the quality of our friendships and our mental, physical, and emotional health. And so I'm glad to be doing this work with such urgency and seriousness because it really is that serious.
You're so right. Okay, so let's peel this onion because I think we all need help in our friendships. We all can discover ways where we can show up better. So you are one of the incredible things that you are a female friendship coach. Let's go all the way back to the Genesis. When did you realize you wanted to make this into an actual career? When did you realize that there was a need for you to curate this space that you have really stewarded over as a female friendship coach?
Yeah, I always joke that it certainly wasn't on my vision board when I was 10 to be a friendship coach. In fact, if I'm being honest, when I first announced that that was the direction my career was going to take a couple of years ago to friends, some of them were kind of like, is this a real thing? But it kind of was a journey that I didn't realize I was on. So I started as a high school English teacher. And as you can imagine, between classes and after school, it's the number one thing that my female students wanted to talk about was the friendship and connection issues. Then I was promoted to the academic department chair. And at our department meetings, we were realizing we could even give good instruction if the kids aren't showing up because they feel like they don't have a group, they don't belong, they're getting rejected. So we had a front row seat to the ways that issues of connection and belonging were impacting everything else. And after 6-7 years, I left that world and got into public relations. And I was working with these charismatic, high-achieving women. And it wasn't long before I realized that they too secretly had private friendship issues. So for the past 6 years, I've been leveraging my background in education to study what the research has to say about women's cooperation, communication, and conflict.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's so layered. I love all of that. First of all, I have a background in PR too. So hey, sister, I love that. Really just connecting people to other people. That's essentially what public relations is. I love that. So I always find that just like God has an interesting way of really conveying our calling to us. Many times, like I believe that he'll put us in a space in our life. It could be a job, and maybe that's not what he wants you to do full time. Maybe that's not what he wants you to do for the rest of your life, but he's going to put you there so you can sort of get that epiphany that you need. Like, hey, I just placed you here just so you can realize that people need help in this particular area. So with all of that being said, people needing help, I'm curious to know, what is the number one mistake that females make in their friendships?
There are many, but one that I see as just like a constant theme is assuming that whatever it is you're experiencing is something she ought to know. And it just compounds the issue because we often say things to ourselves like, well, Danielle, I shouldn't have to say that. That's so obvious. And the research tells us that the number one thing women look for in their same-sex friendships is emotional support, which might not be surprising. But what happens is we often feel like I shouldn't have to articulate what that is. You should know how I need support. And oftentimes our friends do not because they're not mind readers. So I would say that that's probably the number one barrier to connection or reconciliation in women's friendships.
And why do we assume that they ought to know? We grew up in different backgrounds. Everybody has different love languages, different forms of communication. Because I've done that, Danielle. I'm guilty. I'm convicted. I've done that, girl. Why? I'm like, Monique, this one, Tiffany, Olivia, whoever it is. I'm making up names. I'm like, girl, you should know that. Why do we do that?
I think it's for two reasons. The first is there is so much cultural preparedness for conflict in other contexts. You're probably going to get into it with coworkers and you anticipate that. You're probably going to have issues with your romantic partner, and it's normal to say, okay, babe, I feel like we're not clicking. What's going on? It's normal, safe, and it's modeled for us how to resolve conflict in other contexts, right? But there's something about friendship where a lot of us subscribe to the idea that, well, I shouldn't have to say it. If you're my friend, we should have this organic chemistry. But is it fair to apply that assumption to friendship, yet expect that we should have to work through hard things in other relationships? But we expect friendship should be easy, organic, and natural, so I shouldn't have to explain myself here. My friend should just see me and know. I believe that that's one thing that contributes to that. And the other thing I think too is for a lot of women, the research does show that we do use a little more indirect communication. So we might say things like, gosh, is it hot in here? Instead of just like turn the air on, right? So we kind of speak indirectly. And I think it's because, we're trying to be mindful of people's feelings. We don't want to come across as being too difficult. But unfortunately, that means that sometimes we're not getting our needs met because we feel like we're trying to tread lightly, be polite. We're trying to send cues, and there's no time for that. So we've got to tell a friend, hey, I think I feel some kind of way about what you said yesterday. What did you mean? Or hey, I would love to hear more from you. I know I've been reaching out, but girl, I want to hear from you too. I miss you. We're going to have to make it plain the same way we might in other contexts.
Oh my God, I love that. Oh my God, why are you reading my entire life right now? Danielle, I love that. That actually happened. I'm just going to give the trajectory, the overview of it. Of course, not in details, respect her privacy. But that actually happened between a friend and I last night. And it was so beautiful because she was telling me something. And Danielle, I was just blunt with her. I was like, girl, this is the reason why it wasn't working out for you. Did you follow what God said? No, you didn't. You did this. You think he gonna bless you if you treating good people bad? Like that's why, girl. That's why you was 5 years behind. Now you could get back on the horse. Come on. Beyonce done told us that. Come on, get your cowboy hat, get your silver boots. You could get back on the horse and you can try again. That's so true because I used to be that girl. I would always worry about coming across as bossy or mean or intimidating or aggressive because I can come across like that too. It's just number one, it's where I grew up, and number two, it's just really what I've been through. So I try not to let those two factors completely consume the way I communicate. So I love that. You also mentioned emotional support. How can friends show each other emotional support? What are some practical examples of that?
Yeah, well, the first tangible way is to ask what support looks like to her, which sounds obvious. And again, some of us might kind of cringe at that, like, oh, I shouldn't have to ask her. But the average person is not walking around thinking they're doing a bad job. The average person, if you ask them, do you believe that you give adequate emotional support? Most of us are going to say, yeah. So then why are there so many disconnections? That's my question is, how is it that you ask someone, do you think you do a good job showing up for friends? Most of us are going to say yes, yet there are so many of us who are dissatisfied with the way that our friends show up. And so one way to close that gap is to simply ask, hey, what do you need right now? How can I show up for you? So one example is, let's say a friend's going through a breakup. Some friends want you to come and sit with them and let them vent for an hour, right? But other friends are, they want to be distracted. They want a night out. They don't want to talk about it. right? And a lot of times we extend to them the way that we cope. You should do this, you should do that, and think we're doing a good job because we mean well, we love our girl. But if she was looking for you to come and sit with her and you suggest that y'all just go out and distract yourself, you run the risk of her thinking, wow, she's so dismissive. She doesn't even care. She hasn't even asked me how I'm feeling. And meanwhile, you're trying to help by distracting her, by giving her a fun experience. And so sometimes just sitting in that question of, what do you need? Because I want to support you, but I'm struggling because I don't really know what it is you need. So can you tell me? If anything, asking that question it's a demonstration of how invested you are and how much you care. So if anybody's feeling like, well, does that make me look incompetent, or is it going to look like I don't know her well because I should know? No, you shouldn't. You know, you shouldn't expect that you're a mind reader. And so to ask, just the gesture of asking our friends what they need, sometimes it's all that they need.
Oh my goodness, I love that. That communication. I've had that done to me, and I've done that to other friends. And then there were times where I didn't do that. It's true. It's like, Judea, you're assuming, but maybe she doesn't know. She wants to show up for you, but she doesn't know how to show up for you. I love that. And speaking of showing up for friendships, now, Danielle, girl, I had a situation, honey. And I truly, truly believe that one of my biggest forms of love, my love language, I'm creating my own, is people who support and show up. I don't need your gift. I don't need your affirmations. I am who God says I am. I don't need that. I'm not a kid. I don't need that. But for me, I want my friends to show up when it's a big deal. Like when I'm going through grief, it's important for you to show up. I got my doctorate degree this past May. Hello. Like, it's important for you to show up. Danielle, how do we handle friends who do not honor your major accomplishments and achievements? Is that a little bit of jealousy? I'm not saying the whole world is jealous, but some people are, honey. Is that I'm being real. Is that a little bit of jealousy? Because I see you did everything else, but you didn't do that. How do we handle friends that don't respond to your accomplishments the way we believe they should?
That's a great question. You know, the research tells us that it might have a greater impact on a relationship to show up when a person's experiencing positive emotions compared to when they're experiencing negative emotions. Now, of course, you should be there when your friends are down, but it's saying it has a greater impact to meet them when they're having positive emotions, which means that celebrating our friends' positive times is a key moment in a friendship to connect, to have them believe like, wow, you've got my back during the highs, to meet them during the highs, believe it or not. And so you're right to identify this as a moment where you're hungry for friends to have your back and to show up for you and to root for you. Absolutely. I would say three things there. The first is to make sure they know it's a big deal, which sounds obvious, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen women get the promotion, have the graduation, which congratulations, by the way,
Thank you.
Have the baby, do all the wonderful things and downplay it.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I got a promotion, but it's not a big thing or anything. If you tell me it's not a big thing, if you're not posting about it or communicating about it because you don't want to look like you're boasting, I don't necessarily know that this is a big deal to you.
Okay.
So we have to be comfortable standing in our shine, first of all, to say, I'm really proud of myself. I got the certification. It took me a year. And girl, I'm graduating this year and I'm excited. Like to say that to cue to them, oh shoot, this is a big deal for her. So one, make it plain. Two, make it also plain how you'd like them to show up. Hey, I really want you to come to graduation if you can, because like I'm going to have a good time. And if you can, I get it. But it would mean a lot to look over and see you there is like literally all I'm living for. I need you to be there on Saturday and make it plain. None of that. Well, if you can make it, that would be great. Standing firm and confidently in the ask, because the right people want the data on how to love you well. And we have to be confident in that.
Oh, I love that. Why do you, this just all sounds, I love it. It sounds like all healthy communication, like just being confident in that. Why do you believe so many people struggle with healthy communication, even in our platonic sisterhoods? Why do we struggle like that? Who shot our confidence? Why do we feel, oh, I don't want to step on your toes. I'm just politely, Danielle, girl, I'm just politely suggesting, like, no, girl, stop doing that. Do this and tell her, hey, hey, I want you there, and you were not there, and I love you so much, so I think you're worth having this conversation. What's up with that? What, like, what
100%.
Yeah, what
and I
shot
love
our
what you said about like
confidence?
after you announce it to her, because our friends are going to disappoint us. They're people, they're not perfect. They're
Yeah.
gonna let you down. You're gonna expect that they said something or did something and they didn't. But I'm more interested in what happens after you let them know, hey, I really wanted you there. And it kind of hurts a little bit that you didn't, that you weren't able to come. I'm more curious about what happens next.
Yeah.
Do we have the friends who are apologizing profusely, who are reassuring you, oh, no, I definitely care about the friendship. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that. I'm more concerned about that as opposed to friends who are like, well, that's just how I am. There's no room for that. Okay.
Yeah.
So your friends are going to let you down, but how do they respond when you let them know, hey, I wanted more of you. I was looking for this and I didn't get it. I'm really curious about that response. I think that's more telling. And you're right. I think communication is difficult for us for 3 reasons. The first is we do have a lot of cultural pressure to be pleasant. No one wants to look difficult. And then when we racialize this for certain groups, it's even more pressure to be polite, say things nicely. Otherwise, you run the risk of having social consequences of being excluded or being dismissed as, oh, she's too much. So a lot of us are very over gentle in how we deliver because we're trying to maintain an appearance of cooperation. And I do believe that's a larger social pressure. Mm-hmm. I also believe that women, sometimes we fear that our love is too great. Many of us have been told that you're doing too much, you're asking for too much. So it feels like a lot to say, I would love for you to come to my graduation on Saturday. I want you to be there. Am I too demanding? Is that going to look like I'm not being a chill, low maintenance friend enough? Am I supposed to just be mellow and cool when in reality, I want you there, period, point blank? And then finally, I think a lot of us don't have the skills or the models of what that even looks like. Knowing, oh, I have permission to tell my friend what I need from her. So some of us struggle with even having a healthy model to look to. And I think those 3 things make it kind of tricky for us to navigate hard things well.
Oh my goodness, I love this. You guys, oh my God, Danielle, this is so good. I can't wait for part 2 because I have so many fire questions to ask you. Y'all, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but please, we want y'all faces to be in the place because you guys, we are going to dissect so much more with Danielle Jackson right after these messages. Stay tuned, everybody. You're watching the AM show. Fantastic. Yes, y'all, there she is, our special guest for this morning. She's an author, female friendship coach, Danielle Jackson, my girl. Welcome back to the show. All right, y'all, so before the commercial break, we were just really dishing about all things female friendship, what makes it, what breaks it, what we should look for. This is such a necessary topic because I truly believe that when we heal internally, when we take self-inventory, I think that enables us to show up better in our relationships. Now, speaking of showing up better in our relationships, Danielle, I love this because on your Instagram, I've scrubbed your socials, love the content. You have a series that you call the Affinities of Female Friendship. It's almost like the 3 pillars that the female friendship stands on. Could you go into detail regarding that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my time of studying the research on women's cooperation, communication, and conflict, I started to notice that it all came down to 3 things. And this is whether I was looking in the field of anthropology, sociology, psychology, didn't matter. And these are the 3 things that bring women together and then tear us apart if they're not there. And I call them the 3 affinities of female friendship. Those 3 pillars are secrecy, support, and symmetry. So secrecy is all about feelings of mutual self-disclosure in a private, exclusive vault. So the glue of women's friendships is sharing. I share, you share. It makes us feel close and connected to one another. So feelings of secrecy and being in this vault together are very important in women's friendships. The second is support. As we mentioned earlier, the number one thing women look for in their same-sex friendships. So that means if nothing else is there, I'm expecting that you offer feelings of emotional support. And finally, symmetry. So feelings of balance, egalitarianism, reciprocity is very important to us. So if you think about it, we went and tested this. We had 600 women let us know why their last friendship ended, and we could trace every single conflict back to one of those three things. As soon as one woman in the friendship believes that one of those things is absent and they identify a lack somewhere, it spells the beginning of some tension. Doesn't necessarily mean the doom or the end of the friendship, but that is going to be where conflict is introduced.
So secrecy, support, and reciprocity, basically.
And symmetry, yep, absolutely.
I love that. Now, I was looking a little further on your Instagram. I found this astonishing. You said that 50% of relationships are mutual. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so there's a small research study that found that only half of our friendships are reciprocal. Now, this doesn't mean that half of your friends secretly dislike you, and I don't mean to get anybody unnecessarily paranoid, but what it does mean is that, let's say I have 10 friends, 5 of those friends, we see each other as like tier 1 friends. We prioritize each other kind of in the same way. But for the other 5 friends, there's a mismatch, meaning I might see them as a tier 1 friend while they kind of see me as a tier 3, or vice versa. And so that's where sometimes there's friction. We feel like, oh, well, she's not prioritizing me the same way and she's not as invested. It might be true, and I know that's hard to hear, but it might actually logistically be true. And if we step back for a second, if you think about the ways that her social network has been crafted over the course of her lifetime, you might fall as number 5. Maybe she's got 2 close sisters, a bestie from college, and he follows a number 5. It doesn't necessarily mean she loves you any less. It doesn't speak to your value or your worth. It just means that with all the other things she has going on, you fall as like her number 5 gal. And sometimes we have to see, well, can I be satisfied with that if she's still showing up? We're still hanging out. She's kind to me. Can I be satisfied with that? Or do I want to turn my head on a swivel and pay more attention to those who are reciprocal in the same ways?
Oh my goodness, that's so true, because I love all of my friends, and Danielle, I have friends like that too. I'm like, no, I love you. I really, really do. It's just that sometimes we go a month without speaking, and I'm so okay with that. And in regards to my other friend, I mean, we go to the same church. You know what I'm saying? So it's true, y'all. So she's with me like more than you are. You live in a different state. I'm a pastor. She's with me every week. She helps me after I sing praise and worship. So there's this automatic closeness with her. So it's true that prioritization, it doesn't necessarily mean that you hold less value than she does. It's just a relationship. Things definitely impact that proximity, our lives, the spaces that we're in. You're so right. And speaking of spaces, I just think it's important to find healthy community. And throughout your content, you really talk about commodifying community, like the commodification of community. For those who are unaware of what that means, dive into that a little bit for me.
Yeah, so a lot of people will notice that community, that word, that concept is hot right now. In fact, the trends are showing that it's one of the ways that brands are even making new appeals for new audiences, is to highlight that you have a community. And I think that it's speaking to our inherent need to belong and have a group. But for some of these brands, they're really talking what I call lower C community and not capital C community. By lower C community, they're trying to get a group, email subscribers, maybe they've got a Facebook group going or something like that. And that there's nothing wrong with that, right? But capital C community is a little bit deeper. That is when we have mutual buy-in. Everybody here has shared power. We co-create solutions. I don't just come to take, I come to give and share of my gifts and resources as well. We are buying into the same objective. We have a positive atmosphere. There's no backbiting and planting seeds of disharmony. That's capital C community. And so for a lot of us, we have to figure out if you're genuinely ready for a capital C community, that's great, but that also requires something of you. It doesn't mean show up and get people who support you and give you all the resources. It means you also show up and share your resources, and you show up to the town hall meetings, and you share what you've got at home with other people. And so we have to really interrogate when we say, I'm ready for community. What do you really mean by that? And what are the spaces that can really offer you with the genuine capital C community that you're so hungry for?
Oh my goodness, I love that. The lowercase c and the capital C. That capital C demands something from you. It does, Danielle. You're so right. It's like, no, girl, you can't say you want all of that and you're not willing to share and give and love and learn and take accountability and reflect. It's so true. And speaking of showing up, I want to get your perspective on this. What do you think about low maintenance friendships? Who came up with that? Do you think that's healthy? You know, Danielle, I don't know how I feel about that, girl. What do you mean low maintenance friendship? Like you could disappear for 4 years? What you talking about? Like, really, I don't know. What do you think about that? I'm not the biggest fan on that.
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about low maintenance friendships. I do. I'll say this. There is a growing cultural reverence for low maintenance friendships.
Right.
Now, as I've been listening over the past couple of years to people who are using this phrase, I've noticed most people are referring to how high touch the friendship is and talking to each other every day. So people say, I'm low maintenance, I don't need to talk to you every day. They'll even put those two things together. And I totally get that, especially as adults with responsibilities. Maybe you are really career focused. You might be caring for an aging parent. You have children, you have demands from your job. So it makes sense that perhaps you can't pour into friendships the way you want. And that makes sense, especially if you're hitting your 30s and 40s, because the research tells us that these generations have the least amount of leisure time than any other generation. So it makes sense that their friendships maybe feel a little less active than they once were. That makes sense to me. It also makes sense to me that a lot of people are burned out. Just capital B, burned out. And sometimes that leaves you feeling like you don't have as much left in the reserves to give. I want to validate all of that. However, I also hear those same people talking about loneliness and disconnection. And perhaps the two things don't go together. If all of your friendships are low maintenance all the time, as opposed to some of your friendships during certain busy seasons of your life, those are two different things and two different approaches to friendship. Because if you require that none of your friendships ask anything of you ever, it does make me curious about what you think of friendship, about the labor that your friends are doing to keep it going. If you don't want to have to do anything, who's doing the work? And so to some degree, if you want to feel more seen and known, you want people to do things with, but you're also saying, oh, I want low maintenance friendships, the two don't go together.
Right.
And that's something that I encourage everybody to really give some thought to.
Oh, I love that. Oh, God, I love that. Those two don't go together. No, girl, you can't want a friendship that's on level 100, but you want to show up on Groundhog's Day. No, you can't do that.
Absolutely.
Danielle, you know that. You're the expert. That doesn't work like that, girl. It's just that you cannot do that. You can't. All right, so Danielle, while I have you, God, you're such a valuable asset. I have to pick your brain. I have some fire, rapid, quick questions for you. So first one, how do we identify jealousy in a friendship?
Oh, if you find that your friend does things like switches the subject or passive aggressive things like rolling her eyes or diminishing accomplishments, then unfortunately you might have a friend who's jealous or envious. Absolutely.
Oh, and then what do you do about that? How do you handle?
You speak to the tangibles. So I always joke that it's never helpful to say, what, are you jealous or something? I've never seen that go well. But instead you could point to the tangibles. Hey, I noticed that, when we were talking about my promotion, I noticed that you had to get up and leave. And then we brought up again. I know you noticed you rolled your eyes. What's going on there? Are we good? Are you okay? So speaking to those tangibles to let her know you see them and that they don't feel good to you. And if you see it enough over time, you would really need to think about if that's a friendship you want to maintain, because that becomes a trust issue.
I love that. I love that. How do we deal with friends who seem to make time for their man, all the time in the world for their man, but they don't make enough time for you guys' friendship?
Yes, so I always say in the beginning stages of a blossoming romantic relationship, you do need to expect that things will change. I know people don't like to hear that, but they will. They are now trying to incorporate this other person into their life. They're excited, and that's fine. But once you get to the point where the honeymoon stage is over, you totally have permission to say, even jokingly, okay, girl, I know you're booed up. Love that for you, but I miss our talks. I miss our daily walks. So what can we do? Do you want to do a check-in every Friday? To let her know that you expect to still be in the mix. And again, everything is about how a friend responds to the data. hopefully she's responding like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. I've been so checked out. That's what we're looking for. And not the friend who's like, well, I have a man, and so that's just what it is.
Right.
You know, so we're looking for friends who have compatible friendship goals, even if their lifestyle changes a little bit, their partner. We're still looking for people who want to commit the hours to friendship because they're invested.
I love that. I love that so much. What are two female friendship deal breakers?
Oh, well, I've actually asked women in one survey, we asked over 230 women what their big turnoff was. And most of them said hearing a friend gossip about another friend.
Got it.
And we've all done it. I want to own it. We've all done it. But a lot of women are also saying it's a huge turnoff because immediately it makes us question,
right,
am I next?
Right.
You know, so that's a big one. And I think another one might be talking about how awful women are. The research shows that doesn't go well. So women who say, oh, you know how women are, they're so petty, I think that does more damage than women sometimes realize.
Oh, God, I love that. Okay, Danielle, what turns a friendship into a sisterhood?
Oh, I think trust and consistency and shared experiences over time. So if you are showing up, if you are following through with your word, if you guys are doing things together and you do that consistently over time, you will watch that become like an acquaintanceship and friendship into something deeper.
I love that. Over time, that trust and consistency is so true. How do we know when it's time to leave a friendship?
One time might be if you are constantly thinking about leaving.
Ooh.
I think that's the first sign. If, I know that I wouldn't want to be friends with someone who's constantly like, do I want Danielle as my friend?
Yeah.
At some point, I'd be like, please let me go if you have to think about whether or not. So constantly ruminating over whether or not you want to be here might be your first indicator. But a couple other quick things might be you don't like who you are when you guys get together.
Right.
You feel depleted after getting together. You suspect that they're not happy for your successes. Those might be some indicators that the friendship may have expired.
Oh my goodness. I so love that. I've been there. And lastly, I really do believe that forgiveness is a decision, but it's also a journey. Danielle, should we allow friends to participate in incredible moments in our lives, like being one of our bridesmaids when they've betrayed us before? I mean, betrayed us at our lowest, and they have apologized, and they have and are doing the work to restore their friendship. And you can receive that work. Sure, you can, but I don't feel like we should make ourselves completely vulnerable 100% to that person again because they've betrayed you in such a deep way. Do they get to be a part of your monumental moments?
Yeah, that's for every woman to decide, but I do know that it is really hard. That's why we have to be so delicate with one another, because once trust is broken, it is really difficult to lean in the same way and to then entrust them with a major milestone experience.
Yeah.
So I sympathize with any woman who feels torn by that, but it doesn't make you petty if you get to a point where you're like, gosh, I don't think I want to involve her after what she did to me. As long as you're not doing it in a punitive way, meaning I'm going to withdraw the invitation because I'm going to get back at her. That's a different spirit than, hey, I still, enjoy you and I still care about you, but I don't know that I feel softened or safe enough to invite you into this space. And it's not punitive. I just don't feel safe. And I believe those are two different issues.
Oh my God. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. I've learned so much. I know that I have to let you go right now, but Danielle, I think this last part, we can do this in 10 seconds with one word. I think this will help people. So I'm going to start a sentence and I want you to finish it in one word. Love is
sisterhood.
Yeah. Safety should feel like
ease.
Ooh. Ghosting is
not always okay.
I love that. Oh my God. I'm done. I love that. Oh my God. Would y'all give it up for the one, the only, Miss Danielle Jackson? Oh my, yes, y'all. Yes. Fantastic. I love it. Danielle, please tell us briefly what passion projects do you have coming up? And also follow that up by telling us where can folks find you all over social media?
Yeah, we've got a lot of good things in the works, but the main thing right now is our podcast, the Friend Forward podcast. But everything lives at betterfemalefriendships.com. And at betterfemalefriendships.com, that's where we're giving the resources, the workshops, all the things, because we really are committed to equipping women to enjoy more satisfying friendships. That's the mission. That's what we're all about.
Oh my goodness, I love that so much. Danielle, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart just for carving out time again out of your busy day. I cannot wait to build our friendship, our sisterhood, our acquaintanceship. I can't wait to build that now that we get to see each other virtually, and I am confident that we will meet one day online in person, but you have been such a staple. You have been such a source of insight, just really doing the work that is necessary. So thank you so much, and we will absolutely chat more off of camera. I'm excited for it. One more time, y'all, show your love for Danielle Jackson. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. I love that, y'all. Y'all be sure to follow Danielle Jackson on all social media platforms so you can keep up with the relationship goodness that we all desire, crave, and need. All right, y'all, we're going to head on over to a quick commercial break, but don't you go anywhere because we have so many more fun segments coming up right here on the one and only AM Show.